Hi everyone. Remember when you could walk into this giant toy retail store and find rows and rows of virtually any toy you wanted? Maybe you were a kid who loved going to Toys R Us and getting that special toy you had your heart set on. Or maybe you brought your kids there and bought them the latest Lego set or Barbie merchandise. Well, all that went away in the United States after June 29th, 2018, when, as the result of a bankruptcy proceeding, all U.S. retail locations were shut down after 70 years of operation. Toys R Us was an iconic, first-of-its-kind mega retailer that helped make some toys the memorable classics that were cherished and loved by millions of kids. Toys like Mr. Potato Head, Barbie, Stretch Armstrong, and the Easy Bake Oven. The rise and fall of Toys R Us is also a story of demographics and cultural and retail business transformation in the United States and across the globe. Once a retail juggernaut, the store dominated the entire toy industry and children's imaginations by driving its competitors out of existence. Toys R Us was the quintessential, right place at the right time American success and failure story that took decades to play out. So let's take a look at how it all began, its wildly phenomenal success, its downfall, and what the future might hold for the mighty Toys R Us brand. In 1948, a man named Charles Lazarus had recently returned from military service in World War II and wanted to open a business. He was convinced that there would be an explosion in birth rates as servicemen returned home from the war and wanted to start families, and those families would need baby furniture products. His instincts told him that the timing was right to open a baby furniture store in his father's bicycle repair shop in Washington, D.C. Soon thereafter, he moved on to open his first standalone store and called it Children's Bargain Town. He primarily focused on sales of strollers and baby cribs during his store's first few years in business, and began selling toys when he realized that baby furniture was durable and didn't encourage much repeat customer business, whereas toys did. But Lazarus wanted to grow his business and had the notion that he could build a massive toy store modeled after a supermarket that could be filled with every toy in existence. This was a bold and innovative concept at the time, as most toy stores were small and family-run and only carried a limited line of products. So in 1957, he got out of the baby furniture business, renamed his company Toys R Us, and created the first ever big box toy store in Rockville, Maryland. Here's an interesting fact. The Toys R Us name borrows its last three letters from that of the founder's last name. Over the next several decades, Toys R Us, headed by Lazarus, expanded to suburban shopping areas across the United States. The new mega-store approach to toy selling distinguished it from every other toy store in existence. Most toy stores were small and family-run and only carried a limited line of products. Lazarus's stores, on the other hand, were orders of magnitude larger than their competitors and presented a smorgasbord of thousands of different toys. The store designs and layouts were paradigms of retail efficiency. While other toy shops had display cases and decorative interiors, Toys R Us had concrete or tile flooring and rows of toys laid out next to each other in a supermarket style of product presentation to maximize space allocation. The store's bare-bone appearance didn't seem to matter to consumers, who flocked to the stores and bought up toys by the millions. The company expanded and built new stores in every major retail market throughout the United States and beyond. This coincided with the rise of the baby boomer demographic cohort that created the demand for toys. The conditions for the supply of toys were also favorable for the Toys R Us business model. As Japan rebuilt its economy after World War II, it began to produce inexpensive toys, like tin robots, toy cars, and stuffed animals, which Toys R Us purchased cheaply and in bulk to fill the stores with. As Toys R Us scaled up, they bought and sold so many toys that they were able to negotiate wholesale purchase contracts for far better terms than their competitors could achieve. This made Toys R Us into what retail historians recognize as the first category killer, a company that so completely dominates its retail category that it drives most significant competition out of business. Another fortuitous circumstance that helped Toys R Us build its mighty brand and market strength was the advent and proliferation of television as an early mass entertainment, information, and marketing dissemination media platform. As television became commonplace in greater numbers of households, Toys R Us indirectly benefited from advertising by toy manufacturers. Companies like Mattel and Milton Bradley can now market their latest toys to kids directly via television, which fueled demand for the products that Toys R Us stocked. Toys R Us itself was no slouch either when it came to marketing its brand through television advertising. In 1973, the company's lovable mascot, Geoffrey the Giraffe, began appearing in TV ads. As time went by, Geoffrey even acquired a wife, Gigi, and children, Junior and Baby G, in the TV ads. In the early 1980s, Toys R Us debuted its catchy jingle. This anchored brand recognition into an entire generation's collective psyche. In 1978, the company offered shares to the public and was traded on the New York Stock Exchange. At the height of its success, Toys R Us sold 18,000 different toys in 1,450 locations around the globe and controlled 25% of the world's toy market. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, Toys R Us, with Charles Lazarus still functioning as president and CEO, began cutting costs to improve the efficiency of the toy store chain. They did this by cutting back on the quantity and types of toys sold at the stores. This, along with increasing competitive pressure from e-commerce and other mega retailers like Walmart and Target, had the effect of reducing sales and revenues of Toys R Us. In 1994, Charles Lazarus stepped down as CEO of the company, and in 1998, Walmart beat Toys R Us for the title of top U.S. toy seller for the first time. In the later 1990s and early 2000s, the company attempted to turn things around and launched an unsuccessful, expensive plan to model and relaunch the chain under a new CEO. Things did not go as planned, and the company suffered further sales declines and losses. In 2005, Toys R Us was acquired in a $6.6 billion leveraged buyout and returned to being a privately held company by a consortium led by Bain Capital and two other firms. In the case of Toys R Us, the post-buyout years failed spectacularly and culminated with Toys R Us filing for bankruptcy on September 18, 2017, and closed its final 800 stores in the United States on June 29, 2018. However, not all the stores in other countries were closed, as some of these operated under different ownership than the US locations. In fact, Toys R Us stores in Canada and Asia, among other locations, are still open to this day. The saga of Toys R Us is a story of how a business rode the wave of the baby boomer demographic trajectory in the United States, pioneered the big box store concept and deployment, achieved an American global brand footprint, suffered displacement by later 20th century headwinds such as e-commerce and other mega retailer competition, and then a final death blow by capitalism's ultimate weapon, the lethal leveraged buyout. So what is to become of Toys R Us now? Although there are presently no stores in the United States in operation, there are Toys R Us locations open in other countries. But there are green shoots of hope for a Toys R Us resurgence in the United States that have sprung up recently, with some favorable tailwinds helping to propel successful relaunch efforts. On January 20th, 2019, the company emerged from bankruptcy and was operating under the name True Kids. The True Kids company is implementing a reboot for the chain. True Kids has unveiled plans to open new Toys R Us stores across the US of around 10,000 square feet in size that offer a more interactive and playground-like environment where kids can play with the toys prior to purchasing. The plan is to open 2 stores of this kind during the holidays, one in the Galleria in Houston, Texas, and the other in Westfield Garden State Plaza in Paramus, New Jersey, and then open more locations in the US over the course of 2020. Toys R Us is coming back from the dead, and in a smaller format. Toys R Us will once again live on in the United States for parents to bring their kids to and help the brand continue on into the 21st century. I hope you liked the video, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe by clicking on the button below. I really do appreciate your support.